G'day guys, welcome back. My name is Wildkard. Thank you for watching the Wildkard Rugby Show. Like, comment, and subscribe. And yes, Super Rugby Round 5. Highlanders versus the mighty Hurricanes. Boy, starring the greatest referee in the history of the world, Angus Gardner. He took a pretty big bump this game and went down in quite a bit of pain and carried on after a bit of a treatment to finish the game with a sore shoulder. So, yeah, man of the match. First time given to a referee, I think. But we're going to have to talk about him, about the scrummaging, okay? Because every week I talk about the interpretation of the scrummaging and how it can affect the game. And in the first, couple of rounds, I talked about how Nick Barry and Paul Williams seems to give the scrum penalty immediately when the wheel comes on the loose air side. And then regardless of the scrum going forward or not, they immediately interpret that as scrum dominance and issue the penalty. And I talk about that's probably a bit too loose of an interpretation of a scrum dominance, because generally you want to see forward momentum, because if you just wheel the scrum on the spot, it's technically a penalty, right? I talked about this in a couple of weeks ago about the referee interpretations, and then on the probably the most accurate interpretation of the wheel and the forward momentum balance is, I think, Ben O'Keefe. Ben O'Keefe, you pretty much have to, if you take a one to two steps forward on both sides of scrum, and then you can wheel, and he's going to give you the penalty, the dominance for the call. And I talked about a couple of weeks ago as well that Angus Gardner seems to be on the extreme end of it. You really have to go forward quite substantially before you wheel the scrum to get the dominance penalty call for your team. So some people actually was talking about this in a comment as well. The scrum going backwards is not a penalty. It has to wheel or go up or go down for this to be a penalty. So if you just straight going backwards, it's actually not a penalty. So you can actually push the scrum going back straight for 10, 20, 50 meters if you want, as long as you don't, like I said, you don't go down or go up or wheel the scrum. So a lot of teams, when they do get the dominance, they try to either go up, you see that a lot, or wheel the scrum to try to get the penalty call for asserting their dominance and just get the advantage, right? Especially if you're not that close to the try line. And I do think that Angus Gardner's interpretation has always been on the extreme end of it. And tonight, I do think that his interpretation has taken another level to the extremities, where I'm actually starting to wonder, if it's actually the right call anymore. Because let's have a look at this one here. Numia, from the Hurricane side on loose head, he's packed a tiny bit of angle. You can see he's packed a tiny bit of angle, and also the camera angle is kind of looks like it's angled in. But if you look at the line here, it's not really that angle. Maybe a tiny bit angled in. And let's have a look. Again, seems like he's already got a bit of a dominance on the hit. So the tight hair side on the Highlander end is already folding in a little bit. He's coiled back, which is a technique that the Springboks likes to use. He coils back and draws the opposition to overextend a little bit, and also just load up on the big leg muscles there. And then he pushes right through as the ball gets fed back to the scrum. I think this is a really, really good technique. And he gets the full momentum, and you can see the Highlander scrum is completely disintegrated. And you can see that he gets pulled down. You can see that's the Highlander tight hair prop's arm. He gets pulled down, and the referee calls a penalty against Numia, the loose hair prop. Not only that he called this a penalty, but he issues a yellow card to the loose hair Numia, to the loose hair prop of Hurricanes, right? Now, I don't agree with this decision. This is very inconsistent with how international referees look at this sort of scrummaging. So if I was to just show you an example, right? So let's say this is a scrum, and if you block if you block one side of the scrum, and even if you push straight, the scrum is going to wheel. Okay, so it's it's just science that the scrum's going to wheel. And it doesn't necessarily mean that Numia is pushing it at an angle for the scrum to wheel. If the other side of the scrum is evenly matched and no one's going forward on the other side. This is just science. But it's still the dominance from the Hurricanes team that's causing the wheel. So I think it's okay to say that you haven't got the full momentum of both sides of the scrum to not give the penalty, right? And you can just say, play on, right? There's no advantage, play on. But it's another thing to say that this natural pivot of the scrum, right? Because of the blocking of one side, this natural pivot of the scrum, because of the blocking of the tight air side, is a penalty against the team that's asserting dominance. I don't think this is a correct call. Because not only that you're incentivizing the losing, a weaker team to pull the scrum back deliberately on the loser side, but you are also encouraging you're also encouraging like it's something that's not really possible for the Hurricanes to do without wheeling the scrum if they don't have if the tight hair side isn't moving on the opposite end is not moving. This is not possible for them to not wheel the scrum in this situation. And to just get penalized for being the dominant on one side of the scrum, I think is really hard done by. Honestly, I think this is really, really hardcore. And also, like I said, incentivize for the weaker team to pull back on this side deliberately to get the penalty if they know that this is something the referee will go for. But also incentivizes the weaker team, the Highlanders, to load up on their loser side so that the scrum does not move on that end and further exacerbates the wheel. And in fact, you can get the Highlanders tight head to going at an angle to the hooker because if the tight head goes in at an angle, then if the tight head from the this is the tight head from the let's imagine this is the tight head from the Highlanders. If he goes in at an angle, right? What do you see? The loose head naturally goes in at an angle, right? The loose head doesn't actually have the ball in. The tight head goes at an angle himself. The loose head naturally goes in at an angle, and he causes the scrum to wheel like this. So yeah, like this is not really the right call from the referee, especially when you can see that structurally the scrum has been disintegrated. It's not like the Highlanders are actually contesting, holding up their structure and then it collapsed because of the wheel came in. They were not holding onto the structure at all. So yeah, I don't like this interpretation from Angus Gardner. I think this is not only that inconsistent, but just some basic physics. This doesn't even make any sense, right? And also you're incentivizing the losing team to buoying on the tight hair side, right? And pulling back on the tight hair side at the same time to make it look like that you have illegally wheeled the scrum before illegally wheeling the scrum, right? So I don't like this. Let me know your thoughts. There was another incident. I'm not going to show you a video because it's not that interesting to see. There was another video where the Hurricanes, they did a engagement and they did a very dominant engagement and then immediately fed the ball in and chased it through with the momentum. Now technically you're supposed to feed the ball in when the scrum is steady, but I do think that the whole point of you talking about speed the scrum up, and if you really want to be like one of those true old school rugby loyalists, right? When back in the old days, the scrum is literally boom, ball in, gone. There's no hold, no pause, just engage, and then the team gets the hit, basically gets dominance on the hit, basically gets to take that advantage and get the full momentum and get the ball, you either get the ball turned over or get yourself a quick feed and out you go, right? That's the whole, that's a huge part of the game. Angus Gardner penalized the Hurricanes for hit and not holding. Now, I can understand that if he hit and he started pushing before the ball went in, that's fine. But the Hurricanes clearly practiced this. They hit, immediately the ball was fed in, and they follow through with that dominant hit momentum to get that, to get that massive push forward. And the Gardner said that was not good enough. But Gardner said that was chasing your feet too early. Again, I don't think that's correct. I think the team that this is like, the advantage that you get for having the feed. And I think that you need to award dominance. You need to award, aggression for the team. You can't just be like, on one hand, you're trying to speed the game up, telling everyone to pack the scrum, quicker. And then on the other hand, you're saying that, oh, you're doing it too quickly after the hit. You have to pause for for the opposition to get the dominance on you before you can feed the ball in. I just think this is it's getting a little bit silly there. So anyway, let me know your thoughts on these two incidents, and let's move on to the game. So quite a big dominant win for the Hurricanes. I thought that this could have been even worse if the Hurricanes had consistently got the scrum call, which I did feel like, if it wasn't Angus Gardner, this would just be scrum penalties all night against the Highlanders. The line-out was under a lot of pressure as well for the Highlanders, so Hurricanes definitely won that. It got better for the Landers, but still, it's not great. The overall flow of the game was a lot better for the Hurricanes as well. The offload game, the kicking game, just the overall structure of the attack and defensive line was much better organized than the Highlanders. There were literally times in the Highlanders, you kind of just look at it, you see them get the ball, and they just don't have any ideas what they really wanted to do, and they kind of just kick the ball away. And it's like even in the kicking game, the Hurricanes were more patient in terms of setting up the runners and trying to pressure the kick, whether it be from Ruben Love or whatever. So it's just, I don't know what is happening with Highlanders. This was a pretty big blowout. And when the Highlanders did get the ball as well, there was a lot of unforced errors, just handling errors, and just little things that not protecting the breakdowns and overcommitting on the breakdowns is another issue as well. And often you can see that, I think there was a yellow card, in fact. You can see the Hurricanes clearly got the breakdown one, and then you just got Highlander players running themselves into the breakdowns and trying to turn over a ball that is essentially a dead ruck. And there was one player sent off for hitting Warner Dern on the head after the ruck was already sealed and Hurricanes pretty much got the ball out, and just not necessary, that sort of stuff. Again, it just shows me this lack of organization in terms of what the players really wanted to achieve in different, being able to identify the situation that's in front of them and then make the correct decisions. I do think that is lacking a bit. The decision making and recognizing what is in front of them, what they should go for, what they shouldn't waste their time on, is a little bit lacking. A little bit lacking in the Highlanders side tonight. Ruben Love was a 10 tonight. I'm very excited to see this guy play, and it's brilliant. He looked like to be honest, I thought he looked like a young Dan Carter out there. The way that he ran the ball, the way that he kicked the ball, the kicking game, and just the confidence. You can see it all over the world. He missed a few penalty goals, and then at the last kick, he put it deliberately against the sideline, and then pumped it through to just show everyone that he can still do it as a little challenge for himself, I guess. But I just lots of confidence, very exciting to see, lots of speed, and just threats. Just that's a massive threat every time the ball goes to him as well. Jordie Barrett also played a big role as a second playmaker. Some really good hand in the some really good playmaking from good hands from him in this game as well. And Roygard, someone as well, always a threat at the breakdowns, getting the ball out of the ruck, and just outstanding everywhere for the Hurricanes. Everybody was presenting themselves as a threat, and Highlanders just often finding themselves a little bit lost in terms of what they really wanted to do. So let's have a look at the match stats of the game. 1 try to 8. 605 run meters to the Hurricanes to 258 for the Highlanders. 140 carries to the Highlanders, 75. Boy, 18 turnovers conceded for the Hurricanes, 17 for the Highlanders as well. You haven't the amount of turnovers you got. It's really, really high considering you got half the amount of carries for the Highlanders. against against Hurricanes. You still turn over basically the same amount of turnovers conceded. Just really not good enough. 175 tackles made Highlanders, 32 missed tackles, 7 tackles made for the Hurricanes, 24 missed tackles. So the completion rate is not great for both teams here. I guess it's better for the Highlanders here. 15 kicks in play for the Landers, 22 for the Hurricanes, 3 missed goals for Ruben Love. 306 kick meters. Boy, that is a low. Like, you're not even playing the kicking game at this point. 578 for the Hurricanes was more than enough to dominate the territory the way they wanted to go. 12 lineouts for the Highlanders, 5 lost. 9 for the Hurricanes, 2 lost for themselves. Scrum, no loss for the Highlanders, 1 loss for the Crusaders is one you saw there with the yellow card. Wait, that's not one. There was another one. But I do think that the referee interpretation needs to be looked at, because it just doesn't make sense to punish the team that is dominant. And yeah, I really hope that, they dial that back a little bit, and the interpretation of the scrum don't end up going this way, because you just end up like nobody wants to push anymore, because if you push and then the scrum wheels, and then you get penalized for going forward, and it's just not a good look. Not a really good contest if you go down that route. 12 penalties conceded for the Highlanders, 1 yellow card. 10 penalties conceded, 1 yellow card for Numia for the scrum we just witnessed here. But yeah, that is the stats of the game. Let's do a quick recap of the game, and then I'm going to go watch Slippers 203. So 6 minutes into the game, the Highlanders actually gets the first try on the board. It's a little nice backdoor play, and then Nipkins, what is the name? Ratumai Vuki Nipkins got the backdoor ball and then just straightened up through a gap center field. Gets the try, 7 points to 0. Highlanders looked pretty dominant early on, and I thought maybe this would be a close one, but no, that was the only try they were able to score in the first 6 minutes, and that is it. 14 minutes, the Cameron Roygar had a bit of a dummy and go himself for the first try, and then 19 minutes there was a center field scrum. There was repeated penalties, and Hurricanes had a center field scrum, and then Roygar took a quick tap on the short arm and then went straight under the sticks. 14 points to 7. 33 minutes in the game, more pressure from the Hurricanes inside the Highlanders 22. The ball went to Ruben Love. This was like a crossfield pass more than it's a crossfield kick. But the trajectory is basically what you would expect from a pass. It was low and just pinpoint accurate across the field to Fainga Nofo for the try. 19 points to 7. And that's the halftime score. Second half, right away, 9 minutes in, there was a what happened here? Oh yeah, there was a scrum about 40 meters out, and then the ball just went out to I think it was Jordy Barrett, who threw an inside pass to Ruben Love, who ran through it over the gap, and then the ball just get offloaded, and then there was like maybe 6 or 7 offloads between players. The ball didn't get tackled at all, and then Flanders eventually got the pop to him, and he went in for the try. 26 points to 7. The 60 minutes, there was a yellow card for the unnecessary clean out against Highlanders number 20. 64 minutes, there was a lot of midfield crash balls from the Hurricanes. There was a penalty that went for the line out, a lot of midfield pressure, and then the ball went down the open side, swung back to the blind side, and then Fainga Nofo went in for his second try. 7 points to 33. 65 minutes in the game. Once again, Ruben Love working down the right-hand side, and then the ball came back to the left-hand side. Zhang Sullivan got the ball in midfield, bit of a dummy and run through a gap for the try. 38 points to 7. 67 minutes, Angus Gardner got hurt. Went down. Had a just heroic effort, I think. 70 minutes, there was a line out. There was a 5-meter line out for the Hurricanes. What happened here? Again, they could crash the ball midfield, and then eventually the ball went out wide. and Geordie Barrett, some really quick hands to Fainga'a Nofo, who went into the corner, 7 points to 43. And then finally, on the 80th minute, Hurricanes had a scrum on the right-hand side of the field, close to the try line. The ball swung back to the left-hand side. There was a, there was a lot of pressure, and then plenty of pick and go, a little short pop pass to Peter Larkai, crashed over. He got pretty close. He got close, and he had to dunk the ball over with one hand reached out. And then Ruben Love kicked this one right on the edge of the sideline, despite this try was scored much closer to the goalpost. 7 points to 50, the final score for this huge result. Let me know your thoughts about Angus Gardner's interpretation of the scrummaging. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Cheers.